Hello and welcome to another edition of Digital Dialogues from Maritime Gateway. Today we have Mr. Tej Contractor with us, who is the director of Mayur Contractor Logistics Pvt Ltd. Tej is the owner of the MCC Containers Limited Pvt Ltd and also director at Mayur Container Logistics Pvt Ltd. This is a 90-year-old business in which Tej Contractor is the fourth generation of the business. He is a trained trainer by the International Freight Forwarders Association. He is also chairman of advisory board information technology of Pvt, which is the International Freight Forwarders Association. It's a federation. He is also a member of the custom broking and freight forwarding communities, special invitee on Association of Multimodal Operators of India, AMTOI, and executive committee member of the Indian Federation of Freight Forwarders, EDA committee member of Bombay Customs House Agents Association. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation, Tej, and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me, Mr. Prasad. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah. So I have a few questions related to industry, trade, and your company. But I would like to begin the conversation with what I see you as both trainer of the trainers, right? Human resources landscape in logistics, because traditionally logistics, though it has been generations are into it, we haven't seen the young professionals opting this segment. So can you give me an insight into what is the landscape right now and what actually you guys in the associations or government is doing to bring quality professionals into this industry?
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Prasad. It's a really interesting question. So I'm going to break this into three parts: pre-COVID, during COVID, and post-COVID. So we have seen typically the tradition has been that you don't enter this industry by choice. You enter it, purely because of a family member is into it, or your family is into it, or you get involved with somebody who is in the business. So that has been the traditional sense. It was, always as a career path. Logistics was never on the agenda for any youth or young entrepreneur that came in. Then came, COVID. What we saw during those 2 years is the tremendous, the emphasis as far as logistics was concerned grew. While the world was peacefully sitting at home, us logisticians, and I don't mean just freight forwarders, anyone in logistics, e-commerce, domestic, international, coastal movements, all of us are what kept the world moving. This, coupled with a few incidents of disruption that, we saw in the news in the west coast of America, and also vessels getting delayed, etc. It put a spotlight on the impact that logistics has in everyone's life. Since then, we have seen not only a great interest of, people signing up, but during those 2 years, we saw a lot of people going back to school studying. Logistics is a very interesting business and very dynamic. When I left school, I told my dad saying that, Dad, my education is over. And I entered the logistics business. We read more in probably a week than we do in a year. We saw an uptake of people going back to studying, maybe not professional MBA or degrees in supply chain, but even going back to reading a book on logistics and supply chain or doing a small short program, be it online or otherwise. Then came post-COVID. Post-COVID, we saw a very interesting uptake. So I'm fortunate to be a part of the Indian Institute of Freight Forwarders, which is the training arm of FFAI. And FFAI runs programs. Our flagship program, of course, is the Pvt diploma that we have, which we run over a period of 10 months. We saw a great uptake in institutions wanting to collaborate with us. So we run the Pvt diploma in Mumbai in our center, as well as what we call centers of excellence. So we saw a deep interest in Indian schools wanting to adopt and extend our program. We have since then been fortunate to have a program which we are launching very shortly with IIFT, which is the Indian Institute of Foreign Trade, and also NITI, which is going to be known as IIM. With this increase, we are seeing a great future for logistics. Although it is not as mainstream as, I want to go do a marketing and a finance job, but the interest of logistics is building. And we, as the Freight Forwarders Federation of India and FIATA, which is the International Freight Forwarding Association, we are doing our level best to promote programs and common standards for training globally.
So you have mentioned about the efforts of association, but are there enough, institutional support available for this industry if somebody wants to get trained?
Let's look at it from three perspectives. So first, let's look at it from the government side. India is a large country; it's not a small country. Then let's look at it from private institutions or let's say trade. And lastly, let's look at it from the trade bodies, which is associations like ours. Usually, associations are regional or local. We see some larger associations like FICCI, CII, etc., which have a good footprint as far as logistics training is concerned. But we've seen a great impact as far as national, our country is doing a lot, the government is doing a lot in terms of upskilling. So we have now the Logistics Skill Council, which is very active and running programs, workshops, creating job level training. So we are not only talking about doing a logistics diploma, but we're saying if you're a forklift driver, if you're a person doing document or data entry, if you're someone doing e-commerce documentation, we have micro programs which people can take up and build and forge their own career in industry. In addition to this, we are seeing private institutions invest a lot in time, money, and effort within trainings. Although there's great opportunities out there, we are at least seeing industry making the step in the right direction. As far as trade associations are concerned, I will speak about FFFAI and FIATA. We are largely talking about standardization. What we saw, I'll give you my personal experience. When different institutions teach different subjects, even though the topic is the same, what is taught is different. Uniformity is one thing that is missing. As trade associations, we ensure that we teach uniformity and also practical training. When one goes through an educational institution, largely a lot of what they learn is theoretical. When they come to us as an institution for training, we bridge that gap that makes them industry ready. So overall, I think that we have a very bright future. The Human Resources Ministry has, of course, foreseen in a study a huge skill gap that is going to take place in the logistics industry by 2030. We are, as trade, as associations, and as a government under the National Logistics Policy, trying to bridge that gap.
We talked about training and upskilling, right? But what is the demand from the industry, and how much of the human resources you are looking at? Because in the logistics industry is like growing fast, and India has a lot of potential, and now government is talking about 5 trillion economy, and then a lot of ports are coming up, and our landside infrastructure is also improving, which the way you are a better judge of it being in the industry, how in the next decade and a half, the growth of logistics industry. So one is having the professionals in service training or upskilling is one aspect, but you would be requiring a lot of people coming into the industry also when they pass out of colleges. So do you see a gap there, and then how do you attract them to come into this industry? Second part is what government and industry should do to attract these young minds who are mostly glued to the information technology or engineering streams.
We have a very, very balanced vision. I think I'm extremely proud to be where I am in Bharat, in India today, for a couple of reasons. The first reason is we have the youngest workforce. We have the youngest population. that is a population with disposable income, which is only increasing. And that's where we find great opportunity. Coupled with this, we see vision. Okay, the foreign trade policy which came out, I think, is exceptional for two reasons. It has focused predominantly on a long-term policy. It has said that we want a vision 2047 and what we want to achieve. As a byproduct of that policy, it's not about announcing a policy and running with it. The policy has two very interesting features, one silent and one active. The active one is included e-commerce. I am yet to hear about countries who have formulated legislation to promote e-commerce formally, in my limited experience. Then the second part of it is monitoring of that growth. We see, if you have gone through the Vision 2047 that the government has, they are actually monitoring trade which happens, export specifically to regions, and ensuring that they support or they pivot to how they can grow further and more efficient. Coupled with policy, if you see policies such as the mover rules that we have or Make in India that we have, these are initiatives that are launched to ensure that we create value. If you want to grow, you can grow only when you create value. Earlier, we were in a regime where largely a lot of people shied away from manufacturing. Today, government policy is compelling them to manufacture. I will share my personal experience of a client of mine who refused to enter manufacturing for decades. Due to compulsion, they are now manufacturing and they are enjoying it like never before. They are, they're regretting not entering the space probably a decade ago. Now, with this growth of having a $5 trillion economy by 2030 and having a $30 trillion economy and 5 trillion exports, we are looking at immense growth. In order to balance this growth, what we're seeing is governments are trying to push large initiatives through. You have a star trading house or you have a status holder. They are actually, in order to professionalize growth and build a better future tomorrow, they are compelling organizations to upgrade and upskill their people to become professionals. You raised a very important point in terms of the new generation and entering a large workforce would be required. We are seeing great initiatives by the government at the grassroots level, not only for people who are above a certain category in terms of education, but even people who are below that category. We're seeing people who have not passed their 10th grade. We're seeing governments emphasizing and giving them free education to grow through various programs that there are. We are seeing people who are in intermediate, so between 12th and their degrees, they are getting opportunities to grow in the space. There is wide awareness that is taking place through ads in newspaper, and we are seeing private organizations participate in this growth. Coupled with what is most important is infrastructure. We have massive infrastructure spend. 5 years ago, when government said that they're going to spend so much money on infrastructure, people were in awe, saying, where are they going to get the money from? We are seeing, just like a great chess game, we're seeing all the pieces fall into place. Coming to learning with the new generation, as we have seen innovation that took place, I will, share my example. The kids today, they love their screen. The screens which were earlier small became larger and they are now becoming larger again, yet further. We are seeing kids who are on their phones. So what we did as FFAI, we decided to put and push a regime of e-learning. So we launched an e-learning program where we teach the children in bits. Attention span of someone on their phone is fairly limited. So what you can do is you can learn a topic. We've compressed a topic which was 1 hour into 15 minutes. Put visual aids. We've also used gamification to a large extent. Personally, I have created a chatbot which we use internally in my organization when we induct people, and we use gamification. we are seeing an increase in a balance between online learning and offline learning. There is no replacement, of having a teacher in front of you who teaches you what you need to know. But having a balance of having a teacher and also learning at your own pace accelerates the learning curve. Kids today, it's no secret, kids today are extremely smart. I will share my experience of, we believe in training a lot of interns as an organization. The amount of hunger and passion that they come in, 7 days, and, they want to know it all. So what we need to do is change our strategies, as organizations, and we need to promote largely as trade and talk at every forum about logistics, about the beauty of our industry, about our industry is green. No matter where you are in the world, the products that you use, everything is about logistics.
You are also involved with technology. I see you are advisor on technology for FFI and other. You yourself hands-on, you tried some of the technology applications, right? So we all know that post-COVID, there is a lot of traction for adopting digitalization and technology. But tell me, and traditionally, shipping and logistics industry is slow in adopting technology. And as you mentioned in your earlier response, most of the businesses are age old, like 6, 7, 8 decades old, right? So how is the technology adoption now in the businesses? And I heard that FFI and other associations are trying out implementing blockchain, these kind of tools in your service delivery. So can you give me some insight into that?
So just to give you a big background, when I was 14 years old, I used to code. So that is where my passion or engagement with technology started. And we always see technology innovate. So when I entered the business in 2003 and up till 2016, largely we saw, the business model, business changed in a large way digitally. However, the model where logistics companies operated largely remained the same. It was fairly manual with a bit of digitalization. So I will break this into two parts. I will first talk about what we did as an organization. Second, I will break this up into what we are doing as a trade body to facilitate digitalization. So as an organization, we realized early on that inefficiency is high. In order to increase productivity and reduce dependency on individuals, you need to go to a process or a system. Now, running a process which is digital largely, benefits an organization in a larger way, purely because it reduces inefficiency. To give you small things, like if you have a document which you need to refer to, if you go to an office where files are digitally saved, accessing those documents are much simpler. Whereas if you go to an office where files are physically saved, to find a file, may take a little bit of time. That itself is an inefficient process. Further, most people, look at the Japanese line manufacturing technique. I learned this back in my MBAs, where we learned operations management, where people don't talk to each other. They just complete their process and then hand it over to the next person. The next person knows what to do, and so on and so forth. And that's how they do business. Can you imagine a scenario where we can work without communicating with each other? So we took that example and we said, let's look at two things. Let's push a process to a cheaper resource, number one. And let's have or follow the Japanese line manufacturing technique. So we created a system where everything was digitally put in place. So everyone did their process and updated, they have done the process, and it was put in a system through their mobile. So even the digital data input is not difficult at all. And the next guy who was responsible for that task knew what had to be done. And that information was saved for a later day whenever required. This is what is required in organizations today. In COVID, personally, I saw a lot of friends, especially during the early days of the lockdown, where they were unable to file documents because they were largely manual and local or local systems. The only argument, well, not even the argument, I would say the only discussion that we had is कौन सा laptop लेके जाएगा. So we are still largely as an office working from home. My teams come to office twice a week just to, catch up on things that are pending or need to be done manually and have some reviews. Coming to as an association, we realized early on that digitalization is the need of the hour. Most of our members are small members. Investing in technology is not cheap. There are a lot of options, so you don't know what to choose. Further, you don't know what to stick with. Often we have that thing that I will get onto a system, but then because of our team members have challenges, then we decide that we will stick with the original or move to another. Further, digital processes were going to take over and interoperable digital processes. So as a trade body, we said, okay, what is it that our members require? So with the custom broker at the heart of our digital innovation, we said the first thing they're going to need is validation. The most interesting uptake today that we have seen is the electronic bill of lading. In the lockdown, although cargo was ready to be delivered, custom brokers were ready to deliver cargo, freight forwarders were ready, transporters were ready to pick up cargo, but courier companies didn't work. Now, because the bill of lading was stuck in transit, deliveries could not be established. Carriers did facilitate that, but that gave a rise for the importance of the electronic bill of lading. The electronic bill of lading is a significant breakthrough for a couple of reasons. First reason is due to the speed and efficiency that you can transfer the goods, transfer the document, and also the security and the audit trail. So these are two primary reasons that the electronic bill of lading is the future. Now, if you have a custom broker or a freight forwarder issuing a transport document, we realized that how is it going to be validated? So what we did is we created something called a single sign-on. A single sign-on is nothing but a single user ID that we have, which can be used in any technology company that connects with us. We have a few startups which are large in the industry today. We've seen a lot of interest in the logtech business or logistics technology business. Now, tomorrow, there will be 50 players who come in for a digital platform or an organization to onboard 6,000 members, to validate 6,000 members is a very difficult and time-consuming process. So we said, why don't we enable any technology player to connect with us just through an API where we will validate the member. Further, for our member, again, keeping them in mind, security is a big issue. To have 50 different user ID passwords is a risk. So we said, why don't we have our user ID password that will work through any digital platform? So all the member has to do is, create a single sign-on with FFAI, and that single sign-on will actually work through any system that's connected with us. First step to blockchain, where FFAI will validate that you are a user in real time. We are not validating you as a passive member, saying we have validated you 1 year ago and you still continue to remain or a company that is valid. The second very important thing is as FIATA recognized the importance of digitalization and created the electronic bill of lading, which was launched last year. We've seen a great, interesting uptake. We had 26 associations globally that have signed up for the FIATA bill of lading. And we have about 22 TMSs or transport management service providers who have come on board. The FIATA bill of lading is so unique because it creates a QR code on every document. So the moment you generate a FIATA bill of lading, you create a QR code and you have a document that can be digitally transferred to any member or any customer that you have. And that customer then can further transfer the document. We even have a POC that has been done with 2 coffee traders and a bank called Arab Bank in Switzerland where the complete transaction was digital. So everyone was using Arab Bank. So the two coffee traders were using Arab Bank as their bankers. Well, the buyer and seller were using two independent electronic documentation systems. So we had one freight forwarder who created a document electronically on a TMS. Then they transferred that document to the exporter or to the seller. The seller then transferred the document to the buyer through the bank. The bank had created a blockchain model where money, where you can actually see, it was really cool. You can transfer it from your phone. And the moment you say send the document, you can see the document being transferred and the money coming to your bank. So it was a very interesting solution. In addition to that, we also, then effectively the buyer then took the document digitally through their own electronic platform. And that was sent to the logistics company and eventually the goods were released. So as trade associations, we are effectively being enablers to companies to ensure interoperability takes place. Just a little more information. So FIATA is a part of something called the FIT Alliance, which is the Future in International Trade, where we have DCSA, which is the Digital Shipping Container Association. We have the ICC, which is trade. We have DIMCO, which is the largest organization issuing charter parties. And we have SWIFT, which effectively works on standards for negotiating documents. We are focusing together to create interoperability and promote the use of the digital document. So this is what associations are doing to ensure that we enable members to work digitally.
So finally, logistics operations coming of age. We talked a lot about training, education, skilling, technology. Now I would like to know more about your company, Mayur Container Logistics Private Limited, which you have been operating. So looks like you are present almost in all the segments of the exim trade, right? So can you give me an insight into how do you see the market, how is the business, and what is your vision for this company?
So the MCC group has 4 divisions within itself. The custom broking division is called Mayur Contractor Logistics Private Limited. The freight forwarding division is MCC Container Lines Private Limited. We have a software division as well, where we make our own software and effectively use in-house, and we also sell to a few custom brokers, where we digitalize the whole process. And we have a consulting division called Mayur Mercantile Company, where we provide consultancy on areas which are required, in programs such as the AEO programs, customs law rules, regulations, various compliances that come into play, and so on and so forth. So this is a little bit about us. And at MCC, we have been blessed with great customers and amazing team members. We are one happy family, and that is what has got us where we are. What has really taken us places is that we have largely been digitally focused. As I mentioned earlier, we created a digital platform and focused largely on automation. We saw that using this automation, we enhanced efficiency almost 36 to 38%. By that, I mean each individual could perform at a beta of 36%, so 30% higher than what they were doing without the use of technology. Further, we have seen very interesting here. Coming off the last 2 years where things have been really fantastic, we've seen great dip in demand. But largely, if you strategize based on vision and based on policy and based on compliance, I think we have seen some of our more profitable customers have challenges due to compliances that were brought in, and we've seen some existing customers start new lines of business where we could get the opportunity to compensate for that difference which I mentioned earlier. So we have grown with our customers. We have chosen customers largely in our, which are first into creating value, which is manufacturing, or creating value in a segment where even though it's not manufacturing, they are in their niche. Further, we focus as an organization on India story. I've been fortunate to represent or to be a part of the International Freight Forwarding Federation from 2003. So this year is very special because next week is going to be my 20th year, representing India in the international space. Over the last decade, the significance of India has increased tremendously. We have used the India story largely in a lot of meetings, conferences, international delegations, where we have, asked our partners to focus on India. Personally, I believe as a country, we are probably where China was a couple of decades ago. We are growing, we are in the right direction. Keeping that policy in heart, in the last 6 months, we have worked extremely hard. We have innovated. We secured a lot of business from our global network and partners for business which were moving from India. In addition to that, we also spoke about the importance that India is going to have in their vision or in their customer segment in the future. So they are also playing on the India story. And we have planted seeds which we will see bear fruit probably in the next few years, where everyone starts becoming, India focused and moves focus from what China has currently. Further, what we've seen is, business growth organically and inorganically. We grew as a company very fast, very quickly, and we decided that we are going to expand. So we have expanded into 4 locations in the last year and a half. So we have now South India covered. We have physical offices in Bangalore, in Chennai, in Ahmedabad. We work with partners at other locations. We do have an overseas office which we launched in late 2021. And we've seen, I think India is greatly positioned, and the vision that we have. Let's just look at numbers. Right? Today we are at $400 billion. If the government has a vision of $5 trillion, you're talking about 12x. Now, in order to achieve that 12x in 25 years, you're talking about a significant growth year on year. That is the vision and emphasis that we have. We focused on that vision. Further, an area which, I would like to just impress upon for a minute, we saw opportunity in free trade agreements. Free trade agreements is an area where, a lot of people as custom brokers or as freight forwarders feel that they are only providing a service. What we did is we provided value. We went to the customer and sat with them and said, okay, what's your business plan? Why don't you try and import from a particular region or a country or a trading block? Because that's where you will see opportunity later on. We see trade between, countries that have free trade agreements increase exponentially. I was, fortunate to be a part of the Indo-Sri Lanka Free Trade Agreement as it launched in 2000 when India signed the FTA. One of our clients went and set up a plant there, and he said, we would like you to set up our logistics division. So from very early on, we've been involved with free trade agreements, and being on a strategic side where the customer creates immense value. It's not only a price; it's also about how you contribute to their success, and eventually, the customer is king. If you participate in their growth, you will grow with them. So that has been largely the vision of the customer. We are very customer focused and customer centric. We, with one of our largest customers, they asked us to, innovate in some ways and some segments. I'm not at the liberty to disclose that due to confidentiality agreements, but we've actually taken over their complete supply chain. It has been a very interesting and rewarding experience. It has given us the opportunity to add value. In my MBA, I had a really great professor called Professor Murthy, another professor called Professor Parimal Merchant. We all usually crib about what we have as problems. So in 2003, I shared my experience, and this was probably, an interesting point from the whole class, saying, our margins are tough. Our grandfathers had it great. Our fathers had it tough. For us, we don't have any margins left. In 2023, we still, echo the same voice. But one thing that really changed my thought process was when we put up that question to our professors turned around and, asked us the question. And they said, you are saying your grandfather had it good. your father had it okay, you are having a problem. What's going to happen to your grandchildren? So, that gave us the thought of, innovating and growing in the direction that we did.
Thank you, Tej. That has been a wonderful, engaging conversation we had. We just traveled around how you are involved with the training, upskilling, and you have been very, very optimistic about the human resources opportunities in logistics industry, and how effectively both government and the trade associations like FFA have been contributing a lot to this training of the professionals. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me on this program. Thank you, sir.